2 floors beneath the streets of Antwerp sat a vault so secure it was believed to be impossible to break into. Behind 10 separate layers of protection lay a fortune in diamonds. Over a single weekend in 2003, a small team of thieves defeated every one of those defenses, emptied more than 100 safe deposit boxes, and vanished with over $100 million in diamonds, gold, and jewels. To this day, most of the treasure has never been found. It remains one of the largest and most brilliant heists in history. This is the story of the Antwerp diamond heist. The city of Antwerp in Belgium is the beating heart of the world's diamond trade. For centuries, the vast majority of the planet's diamonds have passed through a few small, closely guarded streets. At the center of this district stood the Antwerp Diamond Center, a building where dealers stored their most precious stones, and beneath it lay a vault considered one of the safest places on Earth. The vault was buried 2 floors underground, protected by a door built to withstand explosives. To reach the treasure inside, an intruder would have to pass through a gauntlet of 10 separate security systems. There was a lock requiring both a key and a 100 million combination dial, a magnetic sensor on the door, a seismic sensor to feel any drilling, motion, heat and light detectors inside the vault itself. There were security cameras, a metal detector and a private force of guards. Experts agreed that breaking into this vault was, quite simply, not possible. And that belief was exactly the weakness the thieves would exploit. The mastermind was an Italian named Leonardo Notarbartolo. Charming, patient and meticulous, he did not look like a criminal. He looked like exactly what he pretended to be, a diamond dealer. Years before the heist, Notarbartolo rented an office inside the diamond center itself. He posed as a legitimate merchant, coming and going, shaking hands, building trust. As a tenant, he was given his own safe deposit box in the very vault he intended to rob. He could walk in and study the defenses at his leisure, as often as he liked, without ever raising suspicion. He was not working alone. Behind him stood a team of specialists, a group of Italian thieves so skilled they were later nicknamed the School of Turin. Each man was a master of a different craft. There was an expert in alarms and electronics, a specialist in picking locks and copying keys, a man whose gift was slipping past sensors unseen. Together, they formed a machine built for a single impossible job. For months, they studied the vault. Notarbartolo used a tiny hidden camera concealed in a pen to secretly film the lock, the door, and the exact layout of every sensor. They rented a nearby apartment and built a full-scale replica of parts of the vault so they could practice defeating each system again and again until it was second nature. They learned the guards' routines. They learned when the building emptied, and they chose their moment, a weekend when the district would be quiet and the dealers gone. What they did next was a masterclass in patience and ingenuity. One by one, they took apart defenses that had been called unbeatable. The heat and motion sensor was one of the vault's proudest safeguards. It could feel the warmth of a human body and detect the slightest movement. The thieves defeated it with astonishing simplicity. They approached slowly, shielding their body heat, and covered the sensor before it could register them. A device designed to catch any living intruder was quietly blinded. The magnetic alarm on the vault door was engineered to trigger the instant the door was opened. But the thieves had studied it for months, and they knew its secret. By carefully unscrewing and repositioning the sensor's 2 halves, they tricked the system into believing the door was still sealed shut, even as they swung it wide open. The 100 million combination lock might have stopped them for years, but the thieves had filmed the dial in secret, capturing the exact numbers as the vault was opened during business hours. The key was copied, the combination was known, and the great door, the one built to resist explosives, simply opened for them as if they belonged there. The light detector, meant to sense any flashlight in the darkness, was covered. The seismic sensor, waiting to feel a drill, felt nothing because they never needed to drill at all. They had not smashed their way in. They had studied the vault so completely that they walked through its defenses like ghosts, leaving the impossible security humming quietly, none the wiser. And then they were inside, standing in the heart of the safest vault in the world, surrounded by rows upon rows of locked safe deposit boxes. Each box belonged to a dealer, and each might hold a fortune in diamonds. There were over 180 of them. The thieves went to work with quiet efficiency. Using a simple, powerful tool, they pried the boxes open one after another. Diamonds, gold, cash and jewelry spilled out into their hands in quantities that were almost impossible to imagine. They worked through the night, methodical and calm. By the time they were finished, they had broken open more than 100 boxes and gathered a treasure worth well over $100 million. When Monday came and the dealers returned, they walked into a scene of devastation. Their fortunes, locked in the safest vault on earth, were simply gone. There was no sign of forced entry to the building. No alarms had sounded. It was as if the diamonds had evaporated. The theft was so clean it seemed almost supernatural. The scale of it stunned the world. This was not a smash and grab. This was a surgical strike against a target everyone had believed untouchable, carried out by men who had never fired a shot. And they had planned everything: their entry, their tools, their escape. It seemed the perfect crime, destined to go unsolved forever. But even perfect crimes can unravel over the smallest thing. Because in the end, the thieves who had outwitted 10 layers of world-class security were undone not by a guard or an alarm, but by garbage. As they fled, they needed to dispose of the evidence: packaging, tools, and personal traces from the operation. And here, discipline failed. The waste was dumped along a quiet country road. A local landowner, annoyed by rubbish appearing on his property, reported it. And when investigators sifted through that discarded trash, they found a treasure of a very different kind. Among the garbage were fragments that tied directly back to the heist: receipts, traces, and crucially, DNA. A partially eaten sandwich carelessly thrown away carried the genetic fingerprint of one of the thieves. The trail led straight to Leonardo Notarbartolo, the charming diamond dealer who had rented an office inside the very building he had robbed. The mastermind's disguise had also become his undoing. He was arrested and several of his associates were pursued. The man who had planned the impossible was now facing the full weight of the law. Notarbartolo was convicted and sent to prison. But even in defeat, he held on to one final tantalizing mystery: the diamonds themselves. The vast majority of the stolen treasure was never recovered. Somewhere, over $100 million in diamonds had simply vanished into the world, untraceable and gleaming. Diamonds are the perfect loot: small, easy to hide, and almost impossible to identify once they are cut and sold. A fortune could disappear into 100 pockets and never be seen again. Later, from behind bars, Notarbartolo gave an interview that only deepened the intrigue. He claimed the heist had not been quite what everyone believed. He suggested that a diamond dealer had secretly hired the thieves, that the true value taken was far less than reported, and that the whole affair was tangled up in insurance fraud. Whether any of that was true, no one could say. Notarbartolo was a master of deception, and a good story was just another tool. His account may have been the truth, or one final, brilliant lie. What is certain is that a small group of men, armed with nothing but patience and genius, defeated the safest vault in the world and walked away with a king's ransom. They proved that no wall is truly unbreakable, that the greatest security can be undone not by force, but by a mind willing to study it long enough to find its flaws. And they proved something else: that even the most perfect plan can be betrayed by a single careless moment. 10 layers of defense beaten, and it all came down to a sandwich in the trash. Most of the thieves' fortune is still out there somewhere, scattered and hidden across the world. Its origin lost the moment those stones changed hands. The vault has long since been repaired and its secrets tightened, but the legend of the men who emptied it over a single quiet weekend has never faded. They broke into the safest vault in the world, took $100 million in diamonds, and left behind only an empty room and a mystery, where to this day most of the treasure has never been found.